Hello everybody, I'm Adrian Salvucci, Second Republic Project, speaking to you from Argentina today, Monday, 2nd May 2011. The reason for this rather special report is that last night President Barack Hussein Obama announced that American forces had found and killed Osama bin Laden. Obama gets Osama. Now, I've got a couple of doubts about whether this story may actually be true. Its timing is almost too perfect to believe, and also it would seem to indicate that Osama bin Laden must have been a cat because he has at least 9 lives, or had at least 9 lives. He has been pronounced dead so many times that I tend to feel that this is just one more example of that. For example, in December 2001, Fox News reported that the Pakistan Observer newspaper had informed that Osama bin Laden had passed away in December 2001 on account of his long history of kidney disease. But then in January 18, 2002, Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf also informed quite bluntly, "I think that frankly Osama bin Laden is dead." That was 18th January 2002. Then the third life of Osama bin Laden is July 17, 2002. The then head of counterterrorism of the FBI, Dale Watson, said, "I personally think that Osama bin Laden is dead." Fourth life, October 2002, Afghan President Hamid Karzai told CNN, "I would come to believe that bin Laden is probably dead." All right. Fifth life, November 2005, Senator Harry Reid of the United States revealed that he had been told that Osama bin Laden apparently died in an earthquake in Pakistan in that year. Fifth life, or sixth life, in September 2006, French intelligence leaked a report suggesting that Osama bin Laden had died in Pakistan. November 2nd, 2007, former Pakistan Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto told Al Jazeera's David Frost that Omar Sheikh had killed Osama bin Laden. March 2009, former U.S. Foreign Intelligence Officer and Professor of International Relations at Boston University, Angelo Codevilla, said, "All the evidence suggests that Elvis Presley is more alive than Osama bin Laden." May 2009, Pakistani President Asif Ali Zardari confirmed that his counterpart in the American intelligence agencies hadn't heard anything from bin Laden in 7 years, so he was probably dead. And now, November 2011, President Obama says that American forces have captured Osama bin Laden in northern Pakistan, and 12 hours later, after shooting him in the head, they threw his body into the ocean. How strange. Wouldn't one expect that at least they would have kept his body to show it to the world press, or at least to make sure that some specialist can say, "Yep, this is Osama bin Laden"? No, they just threw him into the ocean. It's going to be very difficult to find him now. And this rings a bell. Do you remember when the World Trade Center collapsed and all the scrap metal, instead of analyzing what is it that brought these 2 buildings down so terribly, no, all the metal, all the beams from the World Trade Center were quickly shipped across the Hudson River into New Jersey, and from New Jersey they were exported and sold as scrap metal to Taiwan and to South Korea. No forensics, no analysis of any sort. Another case, the press are not telling us everything the way they should, because everybody seems to be congratulating each other in America, in New York City, in Washington, in London and elsewhere. We've killed Osama bin Laden, and yet Fox News, CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, CSNBC, the BBC London, TV5 of France, the Deutsche Welle, all the major networks of Al Jazeera also, who seem to have flip-flopped a little bit, they don't tell us that, for example, 2 French journalists, Jean-Charles Brizard and Guillaume Dasky, wrote a book in 2001 called Osama bin Laden, The Forbidden Truth. And there they explain, amongst other things, how in 1996, MI6 helped Al-Qaeda in an assassination attempt against Colonel Gaddafi in Libya. And that on account of that, this was discovered by the Libyan intelligence services, and it was absolutely, it failed completely. But Libya, Colonel Gaddafi's Libya, became the first country to formally request the international arrest of one Osama bin Laden to Interpol, in the international police. Naturally, he was laughed out, and naturally, nobody paid much attention because that ended up happening in March 1998, this request for his international arrest. And at that time, Osama bin Laden wasn't really well known. He didn't hit the headlines until the attacks on the American embassies in Tanzania and Kenya, until the attack on the USS Cole, and naturally on September 11, 2001, Osama bin Laden hit the headlines big time. But the very first country and head of state that requested the arrest of one Osama bin Laden because of attacks, terrorist activities in his own country of Libya was Colonel Gaddafi. So how do you explain then that on the one hand, President Obama is very happy that they have found and killed Osama bin Laden and dumped his body into the sea, and on the other hand, at present, the United States, Britain, and France are helping the so-called rebels in Libya, who are being, in turn, assisted by Al-Qaeda. Colonel Gaddafi said this from the very beginning, and the CIA. President Obama admitted it from the very beginning. Something is very rotten and not exactly in the state of Denmark. Now, talking about Al-Qaeda, we should also remember that back in March 2003, when Britain, with puppy Tony Blair, was getting ready to follow America in the invasion and destruction of Iraq on account of that blatant lying that was the so-called weapons of mass destruction that Saddam Hussein allegedly had. At that time, the British Foreign Secretary, a gentleman by the name of Robin Cook, said publicly and in Parliament, "I am resigning from the Tony Blair cabinet. I cannot go along with this illegal invasion and destruction of Iraq." A short time afterwards, in 2004 and 2005, Robin Cook in Parliament, in the House of Commons, actually said, Al-Qaeda, listen to this, I'm quoting, Al-Qaeda is not a terrorist group, but rather a database of international mujahideen and arms smugglers created by the CIA and the Saudis to funnel guerrillas, arms, and money into the Taliban who were fighting the Soviet invasion back in the 70s and 80s. The truth is, there is no Islamic army or terrorist group called Al-Qaeda, Mr. Robin Cook said. Any informed intelligence officer knows this. But there is a propaganda campaign to make the public believe that Al-Qaeda exists, and the country behind this propaganda is the United States of America, unquote. A short time later, unfortunately, on the 6th of August of 2005, summer, in Scotland, whilst Robin Cook was playing golf, he suddenly suffered a heart attack. He was whisked away by a helicopter to hospital. His wife was left on the ground. She couldn't go with him. And he died at 54. How lucky for Tony Blair. Think twice. Start joining the dots that Fox News and CNN and all the major media will not give you, neither the New York Times or the Washington Post or any of the major media. Identify the dots and then connect them in the proper sequence. Thanks for listening.